like, see, this is right. You have to like look at like the holistic, like the ecosystem from a holistic perspective, right? Like, who are the users? What are the users supposed to be staring at? Do they have direct line of sight to it? So similarly, I think we need to think about what does the whole Ethereum, what should the whole Ethereum ecosystem feel like from a user perspective? How users interact with it, what kind of experience users would have, and like how all of the different parts actually fit together to make that happen, right? And so my view of the goal in one sentence is basically that using the greater Ethereum verse should not feel like jumping between 40 blockchains. It should feel like you're using Ethereum, right? Or to put another way, 2015 era Ethereum-like experience, 2015 era fees with 2029 era UX quality and scale before 2029. Who's with me? Okay. So how do we get there, right? So, I mean, obviously, there's like a bunch of these different pieces that need to happen, right? And, some of them are kind of like very technical, very mathematical, and very in the weeds. And I think some others are like surprisingly simple, right? So, improve scaling first, right? So, now for the last 2.5 months, we have blobs, right? Who here has used a blob? Okay. Who here has like eaten a blob? Okay, no one's eaten a blob yet. That's good. Okay, so basically, we have these blobs, right? And because of the blobs, we have all this extra data space that rollups can use, and as a result, the on-chain price of layer 2s has gone down by a factor of like 100, right? So, we actually have cheap fees. The Internet of Money actually costs, less than 5 cents a transaction, usually less than 1 cent a transaction, right? And, it actually feels like we, like we're finally, like getting out of this era we were in for a really long time when you had to like pay $5.72 in order to do anything, and like the people trying to do anything actually interesting could not afford to do it for $5.72, but like all the degen gamblers could, because the degen gamblers would even pay $57 if that helps them degen better, and so the degen gamblers define the entire narrative, right? So, I think like lowering fees is like the single most important thing in just enabling any kind of like competition to that whole mess, and like we actually have that, right? And I actually think that we've already gotten quite a lot of benefits out of that, right? So if we look at even take something like Farcaster, right? Like Farcaster is partially off-chain, the tweets. Okay, they want you to call them casts, but like, come on, they're tweets. It's, they're, it's just like no matter what brand, it's a Kleenex, right? It's like no matter what brand, it's a tweet. You can write a tweet on a Kleenex. You have N brands of Kleenex, N brands of tweet, and you have N squared types of tweet on a Kleenex. So, you basically, you have. Like that goes into a not blockchain thing that offers like replication but not consensus on ordering called a CRDT. But then they have pieces that go on chain, particularly creating new accounts, like managing ownership of accounts, usernames and things like that. And like that stuff can actually be cheap, right? So I remember using like a social recovery wallet like about 4 years ago, and I think like this was Argent, right? And like I remember actually running through the recovery procedure, and like paying the on-chain gas to do the recovery cost like $96, and I'm like, okay, I totally understand why these guys like wants to just move over to layer 2, right? Now they have, and now being on layer 2, being layer 2 first is very mainstream. At this, right? So basically, like we're actually at the points where you can have these nice on-chain applications, and like they have costs that are actually affordable, right? Like doing something like Farcaster that's like a hybrid on-chain and off-chain architecture. From a non-crypto user point of view, it actually looks sane, and it's something you'd want to participate in, right? Same thing with prediction markets, right? So, back in 2021, I wrote this like long blog post that basically talked about my adventures betting that Trump will lose the election after he already lost the election, and basically I ended up like having to pay over $1,000 in transaction fees, right? Because this was on L1 and this was using catnip, and like it was there's just a lot of gas, right? And then if you look at Polymarket today, the fees are basically trivial, right? So that was basically, you get these like very real benefits to like very real specific applications that come from fixing the fee situation. So this is good, right? But we have to like take it 10 or 100 times further, right? Basically, we need fees to, I think, go even lower than today, at the same time as being able to expand the user base to be 100 times bigger than today. So the next step here is peer DOS, right? So this is basically actually taking advantage of the weird polynomial magic of blobs, and like actually getting to the point where you're not relying on every single node to store the entire blob, and like you're actually saying like each individual user only needs to store like a few % of the blob, right? So you have peer DOS, so then you have full DOS, which is like an even more crazy version of that does two-dimensional sampling, and then actually there's like other undeclared parts of the roadmap where you can go all the way to 3D, and then you can like data availability sample the entire history, and so on and so forth, right? So that's one piece. Another piece, L2 data compression, right? So transactions today, a naive transaction, if it, like for something like an ERC20 transfer, it's around 190 bytes. If you do like pretty naive basic compression, it can go down to like 150 or 160. If you do signature aggregation and you do theoretically optimal stateless compression, it can go down to around 75 bytes. And then if you do stateful compression, it could go all the way down to like 23 bytes, right? So there's still roughly an unclaimed 6x cost reduction from data compression on L2s. High performance EVM implementations. So this is the new cool thing, right? And you have Ref and Geth starting to compete on stats. You have increasingly like high performance L2s, and a lot of improvements here. Also, more development of plasma techniques, right? So last year I made a talk basically saying we should like actually resurrect plasma ideas and take them seriously again. And I think right now probably IntMax is like one of the most prominent project that's like seriously pushing it, and like they have this hybrid plasma rollup thing that gives you a high level of privacy with only a few bytes on chain per transaction. So lots of things, we can improve scaling quite a bit. So that's one. Another one is improving cross layer 2 UX, right? So this is one of those issues where like I think layer 2s on Ethereum today, they kind of, even especially 1 year ago, they feel like one of those cities that have these like weird subway systems where like you're supposed to really care about the differences between, the subway system and the train system, and like those are somehow different. And then you have like, buses, and like you have 3 different types of tickets, and like the whole thing is just a complexity zoo, and it doesn't make sense, right? And we have to move from that to a system where like, no, like there's the transit system, and like you get a transit ticket, right? And like, you just like go where you need to go. So the screenshot at the top here, this is depositing to Polymarket today, right? So basically they have an address, the address is on Polygon, and then you have to make sure you're sending it on Polygon and not Polygon ZK EVM, right? It's like, no. You deposit to JP Morgan, not to Morgan Stanley. If you deposit to Morgan Stanley, you lose all your money, right? It's like, no. They're like 2 different banks, believe me, right? And so, you just like basically, you either like figure out how to like navigate your way through this zoo, or you have to like go and like go to like the local hacker house and ask your 16-year-old friends to figure out how to get the money out, or potentially, if you're lazy, you just never get the money out at all, right? And if that's what you're doing, then basically you're permanently reducing the supply of the U.S. dollar, which in turn allows governments to create more supply without like risking inflation. And so you're basically doing something equivalent to donating to the government. So basically that's what you're that's what depositing is like today, right? So this is what depositing to Polymarket should look like tomorrow, right? So, think of the difference between these two screenshots, right? Basically, so this is something called ERC3770. Basically, you just put the name of the chain into the address, right? So you have Polygon : whatever the address is, and then it just says, okay, well, here's the address, and then you copy it, and then you put it into the browser window, right? And then when you put it into the browser window, you just put that into the receive field, and then if you have coins on the same chain, it just sends from the same chain. And if you have coins on a different chain, it should just automatically route through some kind of cross L2 network, whatever is available, ERC7683 ideally. Until then, the wallet can just centrally manage whatever more centralized bridging solutions exist. And basically, carry out the action of ensuring that the number of coins you have in mind actually end up appearing at that address on that chain. So that basically, so who here wants to the experience of depositing on Polymarket to look like that? Who here wants the screenshot on the top and possibly donate to the government? Okay, so this is. So basically, I think the main theme here, right, is the UI concept of an address. It basically represents this idea of if you want to pay me or you delegate authority to me, then how do you do that, right? And an important piece of that just is which chain you want to get those coins or that authority on, right? And so that should just be part of the address, and ERC3770 does that, right? And the end consequence of this is basically that at least in this way, we're back to a cross L2 ecosystem actually feeling like Ethereum and like the way that Ethereum felt in 2015. You have addresses, you send to them. And someone can interact with this without even knowing what different L2s are, and it still works for them. So that's one thing we can do. Account abstraction, right? So account abstraction is one of those fascinating things because it started off, at least for me, being about basically saying let people use smart contracts as a way of, or smart contract code as a way of verifying signatures, so they can do things like multi-sig wallets and quantum resistant, signature algorithms. But then it somehow turned into being about paying for transactions in USDC, and I have no idea how that happens, but it did. I mean, the good thing is that basically, we have a bunch of standards that actually try to satisfy all of these use cases, right? And so, ERC4337, basically it satisfies the use case of, I want my coins to be in a multisig, and at the same time, I want to send transactions without having to also have some of my ETH in a totally separate EOA. It's solves for the use case of paymasters, or it uses paymasters to solve for the use case of having USDC and being able to pay transaction fees in USDC. It solves for quantum resistance. It solves for being able to do 10 operations in one transaction. Now we have this should be EIP. Wow. Okay. So EIP 7702, which basically brings some of the, or at least the convenience-related parts of account abstraction to existing EOAs, right? So basically, if you have an EOA, then you'd be able to essentially kind of partially delegate to smart contract code, and if you do that, then you get smart contract level functionality, and at the same time, you're part of the 4337 ecosystem, and so hopefully, we get to grow the 4337 ecosystem at the same time. Another big thing here is key store rollups, right? So basically, when you change your key or you upgrade your account, ideally you should not have to do that n times once for every layer 2. Ideally, your wallet just lives in one place, and then whenever you take actions anywhere else, you have to. Does that have CO2 or no?
Just open.
Is it CO2 water? Or
I'm not sure.
Yeah, mineral water. Okay, I'll try it. Okay, it's a little too CO2-y for me, but thank you. Yeah, okay, so basically, again, key store rollups, your wallet code is in one place. You get to upgrade it in one place. And so again, we get a UX that feels like 2015 Ethereum, but at the same time in the context of a scaled layer 2 ecosystem. Building out the Guardian ecosystem, right? So basically, so crypto wallets, right? And I think for a long time, we've had this very annoying tension, right? Where basically there's two ways to hold coins in the crypto ecosystem. The first way to hold coins in the crypto ecosystem is you have your private key and you have your private key yourself. And if someone gets a computer virus onto your computer, then they can immediately exfiltrate your coins and your life savings are gone. Now, maybe you can, if you lose your computer, your life savings are gone. Maybe what you could do instead is you could have an offline computer, and then you could have a piece of paper with your seed phrase backup. But then, if someone grabs hold of that piece of paper, your life savings are gone. And if you ask, the Bitcoin maximalist people, they're like, oh, you're supposed to manually engrave your seed phrase onto titanium at a temperature of 2,300 degrees, and then you bury it 19 feet. They do, the maximalists do use feet, right? 19 feet underground, and then cover it with 3 layers of unobtainium kryptonite alloy, and then maybe it's gonna be safe, right? And it's is any normal person going to actually wants to do that, or are they just gonna stick everything on their phone and then wait until their life savings are gone because they get unlucky? So here's historically the alternative to this, right? So you have your coins, you have your life savings, and then you see that there's a platform, and the platform is run by this friendly guy called Sam. Sam is a trustworthy guy. He goes on, he goes on panels with highly reputable, people like Bill Clinton, and so, he obviously that makes him trustworthy squared, right? And so you put all your life savings on him, right? And then it's 2 years later, it turns out that he basically trustworthy so hard that that all your money turned into Anthropic shares. So. That's, so basically you have these two alternatives, right? And so the thing that I think we've always wanted for a long time is there some kind of sane middle ground between these two? And the answer that I've been basically trying to show since 2013 is multi-sig wallets, right? Multi-sig wallets, you have multiple keys. You could have say 3 keys, out of which any 2 can be used to spend the funds, right? So one of them could be a laptop, one of them could be a phone, one of them could be controlled by your friend. You could, or potentially the third one could still be the 12 words in a seed phrase engraved on a piece of titanium 19 feet underground under some kryptonite unobtainium alloy. So you choose, right? You could even wrap the phone in kryptonite unobtainium as well, your choice. So basically, the idea, right, is that once you have this kind of multi-factor setup, then if any one of those things breaks, you're still safe, right? So, to me, this has always seemed intuitive, right? And this is how I store all my money, and this is, how the Ethereum Foundation stores its money. It's how lots of people store their money. And but one of the biggest challenges of this is for someone who is not crypto native, this is still challenging to actually start using, right? Because imagine you're not a very crypto native person, and then you start getting paid in crypto for the first time, and you have someone sends you some USDC, someone gives you a digital monkey, someone donates a 3-letter ENS name to you, whatever, and you suddenly have something valuable and you need to figure out how to store it. Then okay, so there is this weird Vitalik guy, and this Vitalik guy tells you should use social recovery wallets, and okay, fine, you need to set up some guardians. Okay, can you make your mom your guardian? Can you make your high school friend a guardian? And then you realize wait, none of those people even themselves even know how to use crypto, and so if you tell them to themselves go and set up crypto wallets, then there's a really significant chance that a year later, literally all of them will just reinstall their phone, do something, screw up, and they'll just all lose their crypto wallets, and then the whole Guardian thing is broken for you, right? And so basically, there's been this kind of challenge like one of these challenges in practice, right? And so a lot of people are more bullish on this concept of institutional guardians, but then if you have institutional guardians, then the challenge, so basically, you can have like specialized companies, and people have actually tried to do this. Like I remember there was a company trying to do this all the way back in 2013, like basically saying, you can have your multisig, and then like if you sign up with my service, I'll be one of the members, and then like if you need me to do something special, then like I can automatically sign low value transactions, but then for high value transactions, you might have to like go through KYC with me, and like I'll make sure to make the process like really safe and really robust. But like none of these companies have really worked well, right? And so the good news is that since then, we actually have a whole bunch of different new toolkits in order to make this kind of Guardian ecosystem even stronger, right? So one of the really fascinating ones is ZK wrappers of existing services, right? So here's what you can do. Let's say you have an email address. What you can do is you can make a smart contract, or you can make a zero-knowledge proof that verifies that you sent an email using your email address, right? So this does involve trusting either Google or whatever other provider you use. Like basically they need to use DKIM signatures. So if you have a signature, and you have a ZK snark that verifies that signature, and then you generate off-chain, a 4337 smart contract wallet that requires like a verification of one of those signatures in order to approve a transaction. And then you take that piece of code, you convert it into an address, and what you've done then is you've basically turned an email address into an Ethereum address that only is usable by generating a ZK snark using an email that you sent from your address, right? So basically you're converting an email address into a corresponding Ethereum address. You can also do the same thing for government ID, right? So there's projects like there's Anon Adhar, which does this for the Indian government ID. There's similar projects being worked on for Japan. There's projects being like this for a lot of different places. So basically, you can essentially take any Web 2 identity provider, whether corporate or governmental or otherwise, and like through ZK snarks, like basically force them to be one of your guardians, right? So if you do this, then we do have like this basically gives actually lets you have a type of guardian that is dependent on like a thing that you, if you're a non-crypto user, are already used to controlling and keeping track of, right? And so at least you don't have this problem where like, oh, you're basically telling your mom to like go create, a new MetaMask wallet, and then a year later she upgrades her phone and forgets, right? Because instead, it's like you're piggybacking off of accounts that other people already have, and so accounts that they actually have an incentive to keep and maintain, right? And so my vision for like how this should work in the future is basically, imagine, like, who here has set up a Gnosis safe wallet? Good, okay. But have you? Because they rebranded to Safe a few years ago. Okay, so I'm trying to remember. I mean, I definitely set up a Gnosis safe wallet. I'm trying to remember if I've set up a safe wallet. I probably have. But I mean, I've definitely been involuntarily added to lots of safe wallets. That happens like every week. So basically, you have when you set up a safe wallet, you have to like provide a list of addresses that are like who are the guardians, and then like how many of them you need to access it, right? So what I think should happen is you should have a UI where like if you want, you put in an Ethereum address. But if you want, you can also put in an email address. If you want, you could put in a government ID number, and then that just automatically gets converted into a ZK snarked verifier for that email address or whatever else in the backend, right? And then if you need to actually use it later, then like you have a UI by which you can actually use the email and then actually use that to send a transaction, right? And then potentially we could go even further, like if this stuff gets integrated, like if we actually get like Web3 social going even better, then like there's an even more natural integration, right? So like one feature that, one really nice feature that WeChat has, right, or at least it had back when I was using it, is basically like if you lose your accounts, then to get back into your account, one of the things that you need to do is like basically tell two of your contacts to send like a particular 6-digit code to you, right? Like basically, it's like social recovery that's based off of the set of people that WeChat already knows you frequently talk to, right? So basically a lot of this, like you can make a lot of this stuff much more natural if you like actually combine it with like something that's aware of like what your other social connections actually are, right? So you could do that, but then even within the context of the safe UI, you basically have something where you can put in ETH addresses, and an ETH address can be on a laptop, on a phone. It can be the 12 words out on titanium 19 feet underground. You can have email addresses. You can have institutional guardians, and like basically you're just able to mix and match whatever combination of them you want, right? So that's another piece. Hardening Ethereum, right? Basically making the Ethereum layer 1 like really stronger and more durable. So one is snark everything. Like it should be possible to verify Ethereum blocks just by verifying one proof. Quantum resistance on everything. So quantum resistance on the state tree. So eventually, basically, instead of Verkle, we'll be running on some kind of starked binary hash tree. Blobs. At some point, we have to replace the KZG blobs with something hash-based. Consensus signatures. Probably replace BLS aggregation with Stark aggregation, and user accounts. So once we have full account abstraction, users would be able to swap out their existing signatures, which are ECDSA based, with signatures that are quantum resistant, such as Lamport, Winternit, Stark based, whatever, right? Protocol simplification, more durable solutions to economic centralization issues, which includes liquid staking issues, includes MEV issues, includes all of them. And recovery from 51% attacks, right? Basically, if a 51% attack does happen, including like something like a censorship attack, then like have a very good and very solid way to try to have an automated response to that. Potential L1 improvements, right? So, EVM improvements, so EVM max and SIMD, could be a way to support like some of this kinds of cryptography. Faster block times, the faster L1 block times are, the more L2 applications can be on based rollups, which has a lot of benefits. And then, obviously there's I think there's a way in which like sort of natively faster L1 and proposer pre-confirmations are kind of competing with each other, right? And I think if you can have something that's like native and backed by Ethereum fork choice, I think it could be more robust. Though you could also stack the two if you want. Reduce the gas cost of overpriced operations. This is like my favorite way of raising the gas limit, right? There's basically a lot of the time we push the gas costs of certain operations up, but there's gas costs that we could push down as well. Multi-dimensional gas, and multi-dimensional gas could also increase average capacity without increasing worst case capacity. Sister protocols, right? So I think a big part of the Ethereum ecosystem working as it should is like actually having all of these, not blockchainy or sort of semi-blockchainy parts that are beside it, right? So when Gavin Wood, introduced the Web3 vision back in 2014, right? You had like the three pillars, right? You had Ethereum, Whisper, and Swarm. So Ethereum obviously exists, right? And we're all here. Raise your hands if you're using Cardano. Okay. Okay, cool. Let's let's round of applause for the bravery. Then Whisper, Whisper still exists. It's rebranded to Waku, still going strong. If you use Railway, Railway is using Waku under the hood. Status is using Waku under the hood. A lot of things are using it. ZK attestation, so this is like the whole credentials, reputation, identity layer. Also put things like proof of personhood, other forms of anti-Sybil in there. So ZooPass is doing this, and I know there's other projects that are doing this. File storage, so we have IPFS. There's also value in like incentivized file storage. More secure dApp browsers, this is like a good one, right? Because right now, when you access an average dApp, you're like accessing a website. And if that website gets hacked, the attacker can just like immediately replace the UI with like a UI that basically steals all your money, right? This is bad. So like the thing with like Ethereum is like we have all of the infrastructure to like do a much better job of version control, right? Basically, yeah, like if you put your dApp interface on a .eth website, then like you actually need to do an on-chain transaction to update it, right? And like ideally, I think we should basically have like get to the point where you actually have like a multisig or a DAO or like some kind of like very secure mechanism that has to like directly approve new UI hashes, and then as a user you would like automatically like see what that UI hash is, right? So there's no single server that you'd be able to hack into in order to get people to see fake UIs, right? ENS continues to be valuable. ENS is announcing some plans for going in L2, which is going to be great. Privacy protocols. So we have Railway, we have Oxbow slowly starting to launch. So a lot of growth on on next generation privacy protocols. So a lot of really important stuff here. So like if you think about all of these things together, right? Like it really feels like the Ethereum vision is like actually coming together in this very holistic way, right? Like you actually have something that feels like Ethereum and like it has the benefits of 2015 era Ethereum, but at the same time it's much more efficient and it works at scale. And then at the same time you have all of these off-chain sister protocols starting to actually work. One other thing that I think would be amazing if we do more as an ecosystem is to like dog food our own apps and to like basically like actually try to like implement the entire like science fiction universe of like being Ethereum end to end, right? So imagine if you can step one, you buy a ticket to this event on chain. And like really on chain, right? So like if you want to bypass the UI, like you can just go on Etherscan and you can click write contract, you can buy that way. Then step two, nobody anywhere runs a server. There's no server that sends you an email. There's no any server that issues a ticket. Instead, the thing that you show at the door is just directly a QR code that contains a zero knowledge proof that proves that you own a ticket, right? So who here wants to live in that world? Amazing. Let's actually build it. Get off Telegram, figure out crypto native, encrypted, and decentralized messaging. Today status or Signal is better. Status is like increasingly doing well. We can do even better. Get dApps onto IPFS, have update keys controlled by multisigs, and like basically like be the Ethereum verse that you want to see, right? So that's like basically like where I think we are, right? Like I think there's a lot of these different threads of infrastructure that are like really actually making a lot of progress. And I think one of the really important things that's valuable to have at the same time as working on these separate threads is to like continue to think about the holistic vision, right? Like basically, think about it from the point of view of a user, and like they wants to do something like like move their coins onto like Optimism in order to buy a conference ticket on Optimism, and then like prove that they have that ticket somewhere else, and then potentially like automatically get a Pope when they actually show up, and then and then go from there, and like basically make like that entire pipeline like actually feel like part of a holistic ecosystem based on interoperable standards that everyone can be part of, right? And I think if we like actually continue to pull together and get these things done, then I think we actually can realize this. The goal in one sentence, right? And basically, like actually build something that has the benefits of being 40 different blockchains, but at the same time feels like and is a unified Ethereum ecosystem. So, thank you.
We'll keep Vitalik with us for another 10 minutes, so we'll have a Q&A session now. Please use this opportunity to ask your questions. So we'll pick the guy in blue.
Vitalik, tell us how the key was. You was participating. Thank you so much for participating in our hackathon. Tell us how was Kyiv, how was builders there. Some stories.
Yeah, I was definitely very very impressed. I mean, like I stayed at ETH Kiev, the hackathon, for basically, the whole 2 days. People definitely asking all kinds of sophisticated questions, like things around interacting with the MEV searcher ecosystem, around like integrating between like national ID systems and like the crypto ecosystem, and like what are some of the right ways to do it. I mean, I only found out when I was there, right, that there was this like whole other bigger event that like literally had like over 2,000 people there, and that was basically like basically functioned as like a normal crypto event, right? So that was just like really amazing to see. I mean, otherwise, like I definitely really loved Kiev as a city so far. Definitely look forward to being there more. So yeah, no, great job, guys.
Anyone? Okay, the guy in the hat.
It's not the topic of this event, but I may be my only opportunity to ask you this question. You made a tweet regarding DAOs in the memcoin ecosystem, and I'm waiting to develop your vision about what they can bring and how benefic can they be to the ecosystem.
What benefit DAOs can be, sorry, to the meme coin ecosystem? Yeah, okay, I mean, so I think, okay, so here's my, like my view on, like the whole like meme coin, like topic in general, right? So like, first of all, like I'm not against people having fun, right? And I'm actually, I think people, like having fun is great. Like, how can I be anti-meme coin when I personally still hold millions of Doge, right? So like the thing that I'm against are like basically, like things that are low effort and like and things that are kind of fundamentally uninteresting and extractive, right? So like, so here's like an example of like the thing that I'm worried about happening, right? So who here has watched Star Wars Episode 7? Who here thinks Star Wars Episode 7 deserves to exist? Fewer hands, right? So how do we like explain Star Wars Episode 7 from a game theory perspective, right? And it's like pretty simple, right? It's basically social capital consumption, right? What you have is, you have this thing called Star Wars, and you have like a bunch of, like brilliant people that made a whole bunch of episodes. I mean, I personally even thought Episode 1 was fine, right? And like basically build up all of this goodwill, right? But the problem with like goodwill is that it's this kind of asset, but it's like not a very like liquid asset, right? It's like you can't like take goodwill and then like use it to like buy like Lamborghinis and like expensive parties in Miami, right? And so what you want to do instead is like, okay, you have this like goodwill, which isn't a liquid asset, and then you want to like convert it into a liquid asset, which is money, right? And so what you do is like, okay, you make a new episode, and like you don't like inevitably don't do a very good job on it, but then you still use the branding and you get money. And like it might seem like, okay, you're burning your brand, you're losing a lot of reputation, but like the reality is that's the point. You're converting the illiquid thing into the liquid thing because like you want to have the parties in Miami, right? So like basically, like I think the thing that I don't want to see is like basically that kind of like social capital consumption that I think, it doesn't even happen just in meme coins. It happens in a lot of places, right? It's like people who have reputations and then they feel the need to monetize them more and then they just go and create coins, right? So the thing that I want to see is projects that have like a couple of different properties, right? So first, I think they should try to like actually be more interesting than just like you buying a coin and like the coin going up, right? Second, I think ideally these things should like actually try to be good for the world in some way, right? And I think you can actually like combine those two aspects, right? You could have like, for example, a DAO that might like choose, which charitable projects to fund in a particular range, and like this would be something that's like actually engaging that people really wants to participate in. And three is like it needs to be sustainable, right? Like basically, like I want to see more projects where there's like a clear story for why they'll still exist 10 years from now, right? And like I think actually, Dogecoin is like an existential proof that like you can literally have a meme coin that lives for a decade, right? And so basically, You know, like one of the challenges that like I mean I actually think this issue goes a bit beyond that, right? Basically, one of the challenges is like a lot of the mechanisms that we have in the crypto space are like very short termy, right? So like airdrops, for example, right? So airdrops, you know, you get people a lot of goodwill, and you know you build this community, you know, you generate some good vibes, but then 5 years later, like who here remembers that Uniswap had an airdrop? Sure. Okay, some people. Okay, more than I thought. That's good, right? But like, you know, basically it's like, you know, is the value like even to you the project of like having something like that? It's like much less lasting than it could be, right? And so like basically the problem is like if you do something like an airdrop, then like on day one it's like, oh, amazing, we're supporting the community, yay, good vibes. Okay, I mean sometimes you actually have like bad vibes because you have like random shills who you know like think they deserve to have the airdrop but didn't get it. You know, but then the problem is that like 5 or 10 years later, the project just kind of regresses into, you know, like, oh, this is just a project that's controlled by, you know, the elites of the previous generation, and like we, the new kids, want to do something else, right? And what I want to see is like projects that somehow give the new kids an ability to like actually participate in existing projects, right? And so I think maybe airdrops should not be one time. Like I think maybe you should have like sophisticated issuance events as something that even happens like regularly once every couple of years, right? This is one of the things that I think like optimism retro funding does right? You're like, you know, you just keep having more of these retro rounds, and this just keeps being a thing where new people can come in and potentially, you know, like get a share of the funds, right? So basically, like I think this is one of those reasons why like I want to have more DAOs, right? Because like you want to have you know, like not just like if you have a static currency, then like the entire like live playerness of the community is like entirely front loaded on day one, right? It's like the only live action that you can take is launch the coin and then like have a supply allocation and use the initial supply, right? What we want is you want a system where like the live playerness of the ecosystem, the ability of the ecosystem to like go in new directions and like have new collective adventures be something that continues to exist 3 years, 10 years, 30 years into the future, right? So like that's also some of the kind of stuff that I wants to see more of.
So basically, your favorite meme coin is Dogecoin. Just kidding.
Well, I guess I'm also advocating that Dogecoin should like make a 2.0 version of itself. That like I mean, obviously it should switch to proof of stake, but then you know, like actually, oh wait, okay, I just realized like I've like literally been suggesting to them already that they do this. Like basically, the thing that I suggested is like switch to proof of stake. With proof of stake, you could have lower issuance, and then they should basically have half the issuance actually be distributed via DAO to like some kind of charity projects that Dogecoin holders vote on, right?
Nice.
And so then like you actually have like an ongoing thing that like makes Dogecoin, you know, like an interesting ongoing story that can renew itself.
Okay. So we'll have one more question from the lady in the dress.
Hi, I'm Denitsa from Propi. Balaji was here in the morning, and I know you're kind of a follower of the network states, and you made some experiments. So I want you to tell everyone here what's your take on property rights on chain, and more specifically, real estate on chain, titles on chain. We do that on Ethereum, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. This is this is actually a pretty interesting and like deep topic, right? Real estate on chain. I mean, I think. So first of all, there are a lot of benefits that come from like just plain digitization, right? Like basically, you know, like once, like in probably still most of the world, like land ownership rights are like not even digitized, right? So you don't even have like a digital record of like if you own a house, like what is the exact, you know, like. Right, exactly, or so often no record at all, right? And if you don't have a record, then you know, you can't use that as collateral. Like there's a lot of value that you just like can't unlock as a result of that, right? So that's you know, one of those issues. Another issue is that like ultimately, I think that like the way that Western society does real estate ownership is like kind of fundamentally screwed up and like probably socially harmful in a whole bunch of ways. And like one of the big reasons why is basically like, so first of all, there's like this meme that like houses are an investment and they're supposed to go up. And then there's the other meme, which is like housing is supposed to be affordable. And these two are just obviously incompatible, right? It's like math, Either the thing goes up, in which case it stops being affordable, or the thing stays flat, right? And realistically, nothing stays flat. Like what happens is it sometimes goes up and sometimes it goes down. And when things go down, people get 5 times more upset, right? And so this is one of the problems. The other problem is like you end up being, like super leveraged on like one thing in one particular location, which is just like not actually, like what you want to do from an investment perspective. Like basically, like you have a lot of these different problems all over the place. And so I think if you want to try to experiment with different models for like how land ownership can be done, right? And like this is something that could be done both at like a national or city level, and like you could do things like land value taxes, or you could have like a much more local thing, and you could have stuff like shares of a condominium, and like you could have like more interesting arrangements for how that gets distributed, right? And you could even have structures where like if you own something, you own a property, and then you also own like some kind of partial rights that include some ability to vote on like what happens with some common property, then like basically like digitizing is like the first step to making any of that actually possible. And then if you go from digitizing to blockchainizing, then like you actually get like much more direct ability to like actually like prove things about your current ownership. To like if you want to do things like on-chain governance, then you would be able to do that. And like basically, it just becomes much easier to like compose and like iterate and like make everything programmable and experiment with a lot of different designs, right? So I think that kind of stuff is really cool.
Do you want to take one more question?
Sure, I'll take one more question.
Pick one from the audience.
Okay, I'll take, let's see, someone from the back. A woman with the glasses, yes. No, yes, you. Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, woman with glasses, yes. Woman with the glasses. No.
Sorry, no front running.
Thanks so much for the talk also about all the different Guardian solutions that you mentioned. I work with Sygnum Bank in Switzerland, and actually we're a fully licensed bank that's working on an institutional solution for recovery. One of the things that we're kind of addressing or dealing with is the need for KYC in this process. So I know you've talked about ZK, but when you're talking about institutions, I think it's a bit of a journey to get to where there is acceptance of ZK identities, and there's also the crypto crowd that doesn't really like KYC. So what's the middle ground there, or what's the solution?
Okay, so in the solution that you're building, like, are you basically being like do you have the power to like, are you the sole guardian? Like, do you unilaterally have the ability to recover, or are you just one of N? Right. Okay, but I mean, like yourselves as the bank, right? Like, does the bank only have like one of N authority, or does the? Okay. So, I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it does surprise me that there's KYC issues, because like when I looked at like that side of the regulatory issue, then at least my understanding then was that like, if you have unilateral authority, like if you have enough keys that you can actually like grab the money or stop the money yourself, then like that counts as control and you have to do all this KYC stuff. But if you're less than that, then you don't, because like you're not actually like a money controller, and that makes you not a transmitter. But I mean, it's possible that like it's possible the regulation has gotten stricter since then. Like I feel like, even if it has, like, I feel like that's something that really should be challenged, right? And the reason why I think it should be challenged is basically that, like, all of this stuff that we're talking about, like, it's not just financial infrastructure, right? Okay, fine, I'll have it despite the CO2. Yeah, so basically, yeah, like, this isn't just financial infrastructure, right? This is like a user having ownership of an account. It's like general purpose infrastructure, like a phone number, right? Which is like usable to, like, you can stick financial stuff on top of it. You could also stick like totally not financial stuff on top of it, like how like one of the things that my Ethereum multisig does is it's the recovery key key to my Farcaster account, right? And so I feel like I would not underrate like actually like trying to push and like make the legal case that you know, if you're not unilaterally controlling or like having the ability to stop funds, like you should not actually need to KYC. But I mean, if that stuff has already been tried and failed, then you know, like obviously that does make you know, like doing institutional guardians out of Switzerland harder, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it definitely you know, wish people in and outside of Switzerland all the best in trying to make this work out well in a way that's like stable for people.
Okay. In the time concern, I think I'll throw you one last question. When is the next Zuzalu?
Well, I mean, so what we're doing with Zuzalu this year, right, is like basically decentralizing the concept, and so there's a bunch of independent groups that are creating their own zoo villages this year, right? So
Can you fill the audience in what is Zuzalu, by the way?
how about you do it? I want to hear.
My version is Zuzalu is the best college camp.
Okay.
Like we're a bunch of kids who are curious and who have rebellious bone in us, and we want to change the world. So we get together and we kind of form this little village. Everyone is brothers and sisters, and we live, eat, and learn together for a good 2-3 months time. And you get to play chess with Vitalik and have hot pot with Vitalik, go hiking with Vitalik. But I think the main value of Zuzalu is not Vitalik, not just Vitalik, but the experience itself.
Yeah. Okay. So. Okay. Yeah. So. Basically, you know, in order to verify the viability of the concept without Vitalik, which is an important property for any social institution to have, because I don't want to like hop around on a plane day to day, like somehow you know, like propping up you know, like villages or whatever, right? Then like basically. What we've decided to do this year, right, is we basically decided to say anyone has the ability to like spin up their village, and you know, there's even a quadratic funding round by which you know, like people can try to get some grants to help set up, but otherwise, like, so what we've already seen is like we've seen spin-offs that have these like different directions and culture focuses, right? So there was Vitalia, which was in Prospera in Honduras, that like really focused hard on the longevity angle. Then there was Zoo Zanzibar, which was in you know, Zanzibar off the east coast of Africa, and like basically trying to create connections between, you know, people who come and the local communities that really wants to turn Zanzibar into a much more tech-forward place. There was Zoo Berlin, which basically I think ended up being a really fascinating Ethereum intellectual salon. There's going to be one in Georgia soon. There's going to be a couple in Chiang Mai later in the year. I think one elsewhere in Thailand, one in Taiwan. So it's in Madeira, yes. Oh, also not quite Brazil, but one in Argentina in August. So it's but you know, if you want one in Brazil, you can make one. Yeah.
How many people in the audience have been in Zuzalu? Can you show your hands? Oh,
That's just,
awesome. Please share with other people in the audience your experience later.
yeah, no, that's, but no, it's, you know, it's happening, and we'll keep having more of them. So,
Okay, we're so honored to have Vitalik today. Let's give him a round of applause.